Welcome to Critical to Confident in 5 Easy Steps. And I'm really, really excited to be sharing this information with you today. My name is Wendy Bunnell. I think most of you on here know me, but I'm just going to throw out a little bit of some information about me. I live in Vernal, Utah, and I have 6 kids, 4 of which were blessed in my life through just natural means, and then 2 that were placed in my home through foster care. And they call me mom and my husband dad, even though we weren't able to officially adopt them. We've adopted them emotionally and mentally, and we have 8 total grandkids. And I'm a serial entrepreneur. I have 4 businesses, and you heard that right. I have 4 businesses, and I love it that way. I used to feel embarrassed about having, so I am, and I love it. And I've been able to embrace my personality and be able to get involved in lots of different things, and that's very exciting for me. I love that. So as we go through this, I'm going to be sharing with you a lot about my story, a lot about how I came to these 5 different concepts that hopefully can benefit your life as much as they've benefited mine. So first of all, how many of you, just chat in the little box, how many of you feel like you can be your own worst enemy? Do you guys feel that way? I know that for me, I'm definitely my every day, absolutely. That negative chatter that happens in our mind sometimes can be really debilitating. It feels like we cannot shut it off, that we cannot get away from that inner bully that seems to taunt us all the time. And so that's what I would like to show you today. I'd like to show you how to turn that negative voice chatter off and to really become your own greatest advocate, your greatest cheerleader, the person who understands you the most. And it's a beautiful place to be. And I know because I've been on both sides of it. I've been in a place where I was absolutely emotionally and mentally abusing myself to a place where I can finally recognize that I'm okay and I'm doing all right in this world. And so before we get into it too much, I'd like to ask you guys to describe to me what a confident person, because if we're going from a critical perspective where we're constantly putting ourselves down to a confident person, what does that look like? I want you to think about a confident person in your life, whether it's a mentor or it's a teacher or someone that we really look up to. What would you describe? How would you describe them? Any of you guys have some ideas? And this where it gets a little bit tricky because there's a little bit of delay between you typing and me getting information. So I'm going to go ahead and throw some things out that people typically say when they're in a classroom. And one of which is the way that they actually hold themselves. Like most confident people will stand upright, right? Their shoulders back. They're actually open to the world instead of shirking away from it, right? Yeah. Outgoing, happy. They typically really enjoy life. They enjoy this experience. They're having joy in their journey. And as a result, they feel different when you're around them. Most confident people have a lot of friends because people want to be around them. And if you guys have ideas, feel free to just keep typing in there because I would love to have the interaction. I'm not the only ones that has answers here. In fact, I rely on others to really expand our learning. And they seem free. I love that. They seem more peaceful, like secure, maybe safe. I like that word too. And I almost always have someone in my class that says, well, sometimes they can be cocky. And I want to describe the difference. A confident person understands who they are. They understand their strengths and they are secure enough in their strengths that they're okay with their weaknesses. They know they have weaknesses. We all have weaknesses. Now, when someone goes and they're cocky, and they're to the point where they are puffed up, right? That's actually someone who's very insecure, someone who is having to make up for the internal pressure they're feeling inside. So that's actually false confidence, and I believe that most people can pick that up. I think it's a different energy. It's a different way of feeling when you're around them. I think the thing that I love most about a confident person is that I feel like I'm a better person after I leave their side than when I first got there, because they are able to help me see my own strengths. They're able to help me feel better about myself because they are so confident and they are so secure in who they are that they're okay with me having strengths too. And they don't have to pull me down in order for them to feel good because they already feel good about themselves. And as a result, what happens too is they're usually, if they have businesses, they're usually successful in their business because they just gravitate people into their world. People want to be a part of whatever they're doing. And in fact, if you think of confidence in like a product, when we're confident in something that's going to be working, we know that it's going to work, right? When we purchase something and we have confidence that it's a good product, we have faith and we trust that it's going to do what it says it's going to do. And so we continue to purchase it. Same thing with being a confident person. I know when I have those people in my life that they're going to follow through with things, that I can trust them, that they have integrity. So there's a lot that makes up a confident person. And I want you to know I definitely understand where it is to be critical to confident, like I said before, because I've lived it. I've experienced it. And I've gone through the 5 steps that I'm going to share with you that have changed everything for me. And when I say everything, everything, my entire life has changed because of these 5 principles in a very short amount of time. So when I say a short amount of time, I'm talking about, between 5 and 7 years, which in the scheme of my life, 5 and 7 years is nothing compared to what has happened over that time frame. And especially in the last 2 years, as I've really embraced who I am and what I'm capable of doing and finding confidence in myself, right? That's where it starts. So I'm going to start with just sharing my story. And I want you to know when I first did my first presentation, I was gathering all this information. I knew the 5 steps I wanted to share, and I was looking for stories to reinforce the concepts. And as I was really tuning into how I was going to describe this, I felt very strongly that I needed to share my story, that my story was what was going to be of value to people as I was sharing this information so that you can see what happened in my life because of this. Oh, John, you're amazing. John Till and I have worked for many, many years together, and he's on here, and I'm just loving that he's here. So let me tell you, and he actually was in my life during this time, so he'll kind of know, he probably doesn't know all the workings in the background, but I'm going to share that with you. And so I'm going to get vulnerable today, and I hope that you will share this space with me and know that it's not easy for me to share this information, but I feel like it's helped people, and so that is why I do it. I'm going to go before this picture. This was about 8 years ago, 9 years ago, actually about 9 years ago. I'm going to go back to the beginning. So when I was 15 years old, I really was raised in an idyllic childhood. I was. We didn't want for money. We had what we needed sufficiently. My parents were very strong in terms of being good parents, good examples, amazing people. But at the age of 15, my father decided that he wasn't happy anymore, and he decided to leave my mother and pursue another relationship. And in doing that, I didn't have the coping skills to deal with that. I had never really had to go through very much in my life. And so it kind of unraveled very quickly. I was the only one left at home that was old enough to do anything to help my mother. And my mother literally had a nervous breakdown. I look back and I recognize she had a nervous breakdown. She also didn't have the coping skills necessary to go through that incredibly difficult time frame. And so instead of going to the things that I knew would support me and help me and going to my mentors and teachers and values, I did the other. And I went I was involved in drinking and partying and boys and drugs and all of the things that temporarily numbed my system, but didn't provide any lasting results. And in fact, it made it worse, obviously. And at the age of 18, I found out I was pregnant. And I went and I talked to my mother. And of course, I'm sitting, and I remember this vividly. I'm sitting in the kitchen and I'm telling her, here I am, 18 years old, I'm pregnant. And she looked at me and she said, well, you're not going to marry him, are you? And of course, she did that out of love, out of concern, out of being an amazing mother that she is, and she still is. But that really reinforced a belief that I had so ingrained in me, that was, I am not a good person. I'm different than my brother and my sisters. I'm the black sheep of the family because I don't do things the way that they're supposed to go. And I don't make good choices because I'd already made a choice to marry my husband. Now, I have to tell you, we've been married 28 years and it's been a roller coaster, but it has been an amazing experience, especially the last 3 years. What an incredible relationship I have now. And it's because of my changing, not his. But that's where my story starts, because in my mind, I felt like I had done so much damage in my life in the 3 or 4 years that I had been doing this, that I had I had made my bed and now I had to sleep in it, right? And I felt so terrible about myself. I felt like if I was the perfect mother and the perfect wife, that I could redeem myself. So I just wanted to kind of plant that seed so you can understand why 10 years ago was so rough for me. Because in my mind, if I was that perfect mom, that perfect wife, I could redeem those 3-4 years of really bad mistakes that I had made. I had done a lot of damage in my life. And I did okay with it. I did all right. I kind of held things together a little bit. But about 10 years ago, 9 years ago, this is the family picture that we took, and this is where it began. And I want you to know my family was in a complete and utter crisis at this time. Of course, I don't have all my kids in the picture. I never have had any of my kids in every picture that I've had, but this is my family, and I'm going to tell you what was going on at that time. So here's my son. He was 18 in this picture. And in this picture, during this time, he was addicted to heroin. He was addicted to cocaine. He'd been smoking marijuana since he was 14. And he often told me that he hated himself. And I don't know if you guys have ever experienced this, but when your child says something like this to you, and you see the greatness inside of them, but they don't recognize it, it breaks your heart. And that's where I was. My heart was broken. Here's my Kelsey, my sweet Kelsey, who is 17. It's hard, Jessica. It's rough. Here's my sweet Kelsey, and she was 17 in this picture, and she had just discovered she was pregnant with a special needs baby. She was told by 3 doctors that she needed to abort that child. And I knew from experience what she was going to go through, that she was going to have to grow up overnight. Her childhood was basically over. And again, I grieved. I grieved for her. And then here's my little 12-year-old spunky little girl. You can see from her eyes what a little firecracker she is. And living with Leah was like living with a human yo-yo. 1 minute we would be in the car dancing, having a great time, just laughing. And in the next second, she was screaming and yelling and raging and throwing a fit and kicking the window and the glove box. And she was the school bully. And I was not sure if she could stay in school any longer. We weren't really sure what was going to happen with her. And then here's my little Luke. These were the kids that were left home at this point, by the way. My 2 olders were already gone. And Luke was 4 in this picture. And I remember looking at him and going, how am I going to ruin you too? Because there's a common denominator in all these kids' life, and that's one mother. And I honestly was so distraught during this time in my life. And this was the quote that kept going in my mind over and over and over. And that was, no other success can compensate for failure in the home. Well, you guys, I'd failed. In my mind, I had completely and utterly failed in the most important thing that I could do in my life. And I honestly wasn't sure I wanted to continue in this world. I had convinced myself that my children would be better off without me. And so I got in the only place that I could, which was on my knees. And I reached upward to my Creator and I asked, what can I do? How can I overcome destroying my children's life? And I have to tell you, that was the beginning of my journey, the beginning of where things started to turn around. But at the time, I didn't know it. I'm going to tell you what it said. The first thing that was told to me, and it was just a tender mercy, and it was one word, that's all it was gratitude. And I want you to know, when I got that answer, I was actually honestly kind of ticked. I thought, are you kidding me? I just bore my soul, and my answer is gratitude. That's what you're telling me. Just be happy for what you've got, okay? That old cliche. And I was actually really not very happy with that answer. But I started to that seed was planted, and I started to realize that maybe there was more I wasn't seeing. So I started to glance around my environment and started to notice that sunrise, started to notice the sunset, started to notice the smile. Recognize that my littlest would tell me at least 12 times a day, Mom, he'd just go, I love you. I started to notice those things. And it was amazing what happened with that information as I started to really practice it and put it into play. And I'd love to do a little gratitude exercise with you guys, if that's okay. I think it can be really, really powerful. And all I need you to do is just ground. And when I say ground, put your feet on the ground. And I want you to just close your eyes and listen to me as I guide you through this. And I'm hoping that the audio will play nicely with the music, but we're going to try and do this really quick. Can you guys hear the music at all? I can't hear it. Okay. Come on, let's work for me here, people. Let's see. Okay, there we go. Okay. So as we sit here and close our eyes, we go inside and we recognize the incredible machine that we call a body. We feel our heartbeat and we know that it beats every second, every day, without us even thinking about it. We feel the breath go inside and out as we inhale and exhale. We're so grateful for these eyes that get to see that sunrise with all of its hues of purple and pink and orange and hints of yellow, promising a new day. We're so grateful that we get to see that. We're so grateful as we get to see the smile on our spouse's face as we wake up in the morning. We're so grateful for these ears that get to hear this incredible music, that we don't just get to hear it, but we feel it. We feel it in our soul, in our spirit. We're so grateful for these hands that can lift another and help them recognize that they are more. We're so grateful that they get to serve every day as we go through our daily routine. We're so grateful for these legs that take us wherever we want to go every day. We're so grateful for this moment. And we recognize that we have everything we need right now in this moment with no changes. We are grateful. All right. So I want you to open your eyes. I think it's beautiful too. I love how I feel when I do a gratitude exercise, and I want you to know I only did that for what, a minute? I want you guys to describe your feelings. How did you feel as we were going through that exercise? What was your thoughts? What was your, maybe not even your thoughts, just what were your feelings? I know that peaceful. I get that every single time. And I want you to understand why you feel peaceful. Because when we're in a place of gratitude, I'm actually going to go through this. This is an old school radio, right? It's so funny when I put this up and the youngins look at this and they're like, what is that? When we are in a place of gratitude, we are actually tuning into the frequency of that higher source. And you can call it whatever you want. I believe that 95% of us feel like there's something greater than ourselves, right? Whether that is the universe, the creator, God, Savior, Heavenly Father, whatever it is for you. When we're in a place of gratitude, we are actually in the closest place. We are in alignment with that higher source. Then we are in the highest frequency and vibration we can be at. That and love. And actually gratitude and love are intermingled, right? Because we're loving life. We're loving. And when we are in that place, when we are in a state of gratitude, we're not worrying about the future and what's to come tomorrow or the next day or the next year. So we're not feeling anxiety. We're not looking to the back and all the mistakes that we made, because we've all made mistakes. So we're not feeling depression. We're absolutely present. We're grounded, and we recognize what we have and not dwelling on what we don't have. And you're exactly right, Melinda. I start my day off now with a gratitude exercise every single morning. Well, okay. There are days where I forget or life gets busy, and then I have to tell you, I recognize a complete difference with how my day goes. And when I start in that place of gratitude and I align myself to a place where I'm really hearing and seeing the bigger picture, this is when I ask my questions. Hey, what one thing can I do to expand my business? What one thing can I do to really solidify my relationships and take it to the next level? How do I get my relationships closer? What one way can I nurture myself today? Any of those questions that we need, I can get answers either immediately or sometime during the day I'm going to get the answer. Well, sometimes it happens later than that, but generally speaking, I'm on the right track that day if I start my day off. And I have to tell you, what I love to do is I like to put the music. The music is huge for me. I love to hear the music. And John, it's my favorite hymn too, so there you go. I just love it. I put on beautiful music, and I actually type my gratitude into an online journal because I type really fast. So that for me is really powerful. I'm using all my senses as I type, I listen, I feel, I'm getting an alignment. And I have to tell you this one thing. If you don't hear anything else that I say today, If you will practice a gratitude exercise for the next 7 days in a row, when you first wake up, take 5 minutes, and it doesn't matter how you do it. You don't have to do it the way I do it. You can write it with pen and paper. You can pray. You can do whatever resonates with you, but just getting in deep, deep gratitude once a day will change your life. I want you to know this has transformed my life because I feel like I have a partnership now in my life. I feel like I'm guided and I understand exactly what I need to be doing every day. And this, again, has provided so much peace. And as I start to listen and I recognize, I start to shut that negative noise off. And you'll start practicing it. At least in gratitude, you're going to have that off. And you'll start to learn to be in a place where you don't hear those negative voices anymore. It's just so, so powerful. The next thing that I want to talk to you about is stop comparing. My strengths are my strengths. Your strengths are your strengths. And I want you to know I have so many weaknesses, I can't even count them. But I have strengths and I recognize those strengths now. And what's so unfair about comparing is that when we're in that place, we actually are comparing our weaknesses to someone else's strengths. And that's not fair. It's never fair. You'll never win. And sometimes we put this superhuman put together. We take the strengths of this person and this person and that person and we lump them together into a superhuman and we wonder why we can't compare and we can't measure up against them. When we are in a place of envy, we are actually in the exact opposite frequency as when we are in gratitude. So you cannot feel gratitude and feel envy in the same place. So when you're looking at someone and you're wondering why you can't be that person, you're actually in a place of envy and you will never see your strengths. You will never see what you have to contribute. And one of the things that I love about people discovering their confidence is that they've stopped sitting on the sidelines of life and they actually are active participants in the game of life. And because your strengths are needed in this world and you have a special gift and a special purpose that we all need it. The world needs it. We can't afford for you to stay in a stuck place. We can't afford for you to compare and look at others for their strengths. You have your own strengths. You're seeing one of my strengths. One of my strengths is communication. But you also don't see that I was in yoga pants until 5 o'clock last night because I never got ready. You don't see that I have no common sense. Like my husband's constantly redirecting me and going, why do you do everything so hard? So you need to understand that I have weaknesses as well. And I love this little picture. I look at it and it's like the one little goldfish is looking at the big goldfish and thinking, oh, wow, I wish I was as big as you. And then the big goldfish is looking at the little goldfish, but it's got this beautiful gravel and this plants and it's all gorgeous, looking at it and going, oh, I wish I had a fishbowl like yours, right? One of the ways to get out of that is to go back to gratitude. And also there's some exercises that you can do to find your strengths. If you don't know what it is, some people are like, I don't know what my strengths are. I really don't recognize what I'm good at. It's usually things that you can do effortlessly and you would do whether you were paid for them or not paid for them. You love it so much. It just comes naturally to you. It's also usually what you get irritated about when someone else cannot do it. So like when I see my husband trying to, my husband's good at so many things, I don't even know. Anyways, but when I get frustrated because he doesn't do it fast enough and he's not doing it efficiently enough, I'm like, and then I go, oh, that's my strength. That's why I'm getting irritated about this, is because that's not one of his gifts. That's one of my gifts. So stop comparing. The next thing is letting go of guilt. I want you to know that mistakes were never meant to be a life sentence. They were meant to be a learning lesson. In fact, I'll be talking about my book at the very end, and that was the very reason why I wanted to help people know those mistakes and those falling down and not doing things perfectly is actually some of our greatest blessings we can have in our life. We were not meant to hold on to that and not let them go. And in fact, guilt And also not forgiving. I mean, that's another way to say I don't forgive myself or forgive others. It's almost like an anchor in life. If you are in a boat and you have an anchor, you're staying still, right? And if you sometimes can move forward if you have a strong enough engine, but you're not going to go very far and very fast, and it's going to just bog you down, and eventually it might even burn out the engine. By learning to let go of guilt, you will actually just, the pressure off your shoulders will just lift. Taking on my children's problems as my own and not recognizing that I was being a good example in so many areas, that wasn't mine to own. That was never meant to be mine. That was their journey. And by letting go and allowing myself to forgive myself, it freed myself up from receiving a lot of blessings that I was damming up. The next thing is surrounding yourself with positive people. You become most like the 5 people you surround yourself with, so choose wisely. This I cannot overstate. And as what happens is as you start to change and you start to do some of these principles, you're going to start to see that you attract different people. You might even have friends that don't really call you as often because they just, your vibe attracts your tribe, right? So one of the things you need to let go is as you start feeling good about yourself, recognizing that it's okay if people aren't as engaged in wanting to be with you, because that's truly not the tribe that you want. You want to be around positive people, people who are going the same direction that you want to. That's why it's so important when we say, kids, choose your friends wisely. It makes all the difference as they're growing up, but it still is the same when we get older. And if you've got someone that's constantly trying to drag you down, you may want to consider spending less time with them. You can still love them, but you can have boundaries. Same with your family members. I have one child that still is a challenge for me, and I'll tell you who that is in a minute. But I can still have boundaries. I can still have self-respect, and I can still make sure that I am taking care of my own needs and nurturing myself. If you don't know how to surround yourself with positive people, I would suggest you look at different ways to get around positive people. There's Rotary clubs, there's Kiwanis clubs, there's personal development conferences. There are so many places you can be surrounded by good, positive people. I look around at my friends and I'm like, I am so blessed. I have the most amazing friends. I have friends that want me to succeed. They lift me up. If I'm feeling a little down on myself or I'm feeling a little less confident on days, which I still do, then I have friends that will buoy me up. And that's what you want. You don't want friends that are going to tear you down, okay? And that is just so, so important. The next thing is belief breakthrough. And this is one that we work on when I work with people one-on-one. We really work through their belief breakthrough and overcoming their limiting beliefs. So you heard at the very beginning of my dialogue that I didn't believe I was a good person. There was something wrong with me. There was something different about me, and I did not make good decisions. And I want you to know that showed up in my life everywhere. Even though I think I knew that there were some strengths that I had some self-confidence going through life, but I would hit a plateau every time. And I didn't really see that plateau as much until I became an entrepreneur. Because as an entrepreneur, you don't get a paycheck every 2 weeks. You have to create your own paycheck. And so I started noticing that I would allow myself to be at a certain wage every year. Every year it was the same. It didn't matter how much extra work or extra effort. And what ended up happening is I actually discovered that that's where I felt my worth was. I was good enough to hear, but not to hear and not to hear. And I did it in my relationships. I did it in all aspects of my life. And I was actually damming up all the blessings that were really readily available to me because I didn't believe I was worthy enough to receive them. And oftentimes that's what we do. We ask for things, we want them, we have them on our vision boards, we have all of these things that we want, but we don't receive them. They're right there. We could reach out and grab them anytime we wanted to, but because we don't believe we're worth it or we don't believe we're good enough. Every one of us has a different story. And so getting to the root of that cause is something that you can do. And it's called belief breakthrough. And it's really just rewriting that story that was ingrained in you over and over. And what happens is once you get that belief stuck in your head, then our subconscious wants to verify that that's true information. So it looks around us and says, oh, there's proof that that's true. Oh, this is true. I'm looking over here. And I'll give you an idea of what that is. My daughter believed she couldn't have friends. Like, people didn't like her. So what would happen is in church, she would sit down, and since nobody sat down next to her or shook her hand or said hello, that was verification that nobody wanted to be her friend. She would go to parties and nobody would just flock to, she wouldn't have people flocking to her, receiving her with a welcome and open arms. That again was verification. I'm not good. People don't like me. They don't want to be friends with me. When we really went back to one of the starting points in her life that told her, and she, usually it's when we're younger, when we're formative, when we're not cognitive enough to know whether it's a lie or not a lie, when big people are telling us these things and we are receiving them, we start to believe them. And then our subconscious does what it does best, which is protect us, and it goes around and it finds opportunities to solidify that belief. And we go through life doing this, okay? When I was able to break through that belief that I don't make good decisions and I'm not a good person, my life completely changed. And I'm still working on it. There's still other beliefs that I'm working. It's a constant practice that I have. But I want you to know that I recognize that when I was 18, I made some really big and difficult decisions. I married a man that nobody thought I should marry. And we went through a lot of painful years, but he is my soulmate now. And I made good decisions. And I have an amazing relationship with my husband now. And I had kids. I didn't abort the baby. I didn't adopt the baby out, even though adoption's beautiful, and we'll get to that. And now my income has tripled. And now my worth is, there's no limit to what my worth is. So my income will continue to go up. My business will still continue to rocket. My relationships will still get stronger because I am worthy of that. And I just undammed all of that and allowed the blessings to come to me. They were there. I just didn't allow them to be in my life. And Melinda, to help children stop those things as they're starting is sometimes a little tricky because sometimes kids can't verbalize that, right? They can't verbalize what they're owning. And so you may not know that. And that's really part of most of our journeys. So a lot of times we want to prevent our kids from any sort of pain, any sort of things that are going to make it difficult in their life. But I'm starting to recognize that that is some of the greatest blessings, to allow our kids to learn that. And then when they get old enough to cognitively understand, we can help them through that process. You can learn how to go through a belief breakthrough process with your kids. You can do it as soon as they can cognitively identify that. But it's okay to let our kids feel a little pain. It is, just like us. It's okay. And in fact, I'm going to go through the last little bit. I love to summarize what I teach so that you can see, so you're not left hanging. What happened to your family? This was a picture that was taken last year. My husband hates this picture. He's like, why? We were actually boating that day, and we thought, what a great idea. We're all together. Let's go ahead and get a picture, all but Danny. And so we were getting ready in restrooms that didn't even have any sort of outlets or whatever. So it was really interesting. And my husband had that outfit on, and I really didn't look at it too closely. And he's like, I look like I've got a kilt on. But here's my family last summer. And I want you to know a little bit about what's happened in the last 9 years. I know, I think they all look great. We did okay for not having anything to get ready. So here's my Leah. She's now 20 years old. And she is actually getting ready to get started in law enforcement like her dad. She's taken that intense emotion that she feels. She didn't know what to do with it. She didn't know how to channel it. And she's learning to utilize it for good. She's learning to use that assertiveness and the fact that she is a warrior, that's her personality, for the good of man. She's one of the funniest girls I've ever met in my life. She still doesn't play nice in the sandbox, you guys. She still struggles with relationships. She still struggles with treating me with respect. This is the daughter that I still struggle with. But you know what? It's her journey. And as long as I protect myself and make sure that I am not being the emotional bag or punching bag that she's punching, she is on this journey. And my only task is to be her greatest cheerleader and to love her unconditionally and let her know I will be there through thick and thin. My daughter, Kelsey, she decided to do a really challenging and difficult thing. She decided to have that baby. And let me show you. I'll go back and forth to these pictures. Olivia is on the right-hand side. She did a brave and courageous thing, and she decided to place that baby for adoption to a couple who hadn't been able to have children. And she has blessed the lives of so many. And when she made this choice, she actually expanded our family. And Deborah and Brady and Max are all a part of our lives. She actually looks like my daughter's older sister, I think. And since then, she married the same man that she had the baby with, Olivia. She ended up marrying, and they have 2 beautiful children now. And they are all birth sisters, so they still get together, and we're still a part of each other's life. She taught me strength. She taught me courage. And she brought an incredible blessing into our family because of her choice. And even though she made a mistake at the beginning by choosing to sleep with a man she wasn't married to and having a baby before she was ready, she did the right thing. And she is one of my best friends. I'm really, really emotional today, so I apologize. And then there's Luke, and he's now 13. Today was his very first day of school. And he is an amazing individual, I have to tell you. My mother was here just a couple weeks ago, and I was a little out of sorts because one of my businesses was taking on a life of its own, and I felt like there was some fires I had to put out, and I was frustrated because I wanted to be with my mom, but my business was pulling me away. I know, John, he's getting so big. And Luke took me aside, and he said, "Mom, what's going on? What's the matter?" And I shared with him what was going on, and he goes, "Mom, you get to choose how you feel. Grandma is here. Why don't you just be present and allow the other stuff to go away?" He said this. And just be careful when you start learning this stuff, your kids pick up on it. But you know what? Even if Luke chooses to go down a rocky and hard path, it's okay. It's his journey. And all I get to do is stand back and love him through that. I know he's going to learn every lesson he's supposed to learn while he's on this earth. And here's my Nick. I wish I had a new picture. He just sent me a picture of him 2 days ago. He got contacts and he cut his hair. And Nick's not on heroin anymore. Nick's not taking cocaine anymore. Nick lives in Glenwood Springs, Colorado. He lives there for a reason. And if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, then just find out what's legal in Colorado and you'll figure it out. But this incredible man has taught me how to love unconditionally. I don't ask him to cut his hair anymore, even though he did it on his own. I don't ask him to change his clothes anymore. I gave him that shirt for that picture. I admit it. But on a day-to-day basis, he doesn't dress like that. I don't ask him to change because I love him for who he is. And I see the greatness in him. And he's starting to discover his greatness. I love this man for what he's done for my life. And I recognize that 9 years ago, when I was ready to end it all, that was the greatest blessing of my life. It brought me to where I am now. And here's a picture of me. And I have to tell you guys, I'm finally in a place in my life where I recognize that I'm okay, that I'm doing okay in this world. And I actually love this woman. And I can't tell you that I ever did until maybe about 6 or 7 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago. I would love it if you guys had a phone available or a pocket mirror of some sort. Do you guys have something like that with you? Oh, thank you guys. I love you too. Do you guys have like a little pocket mirror or anything, or just your phone if you put it on the camera mode and you flip it around so you can see you? I want you to look into your eyes. Would you do that for me? I'm going to start something really quick. Let's see if this one will work. Apparently I have to open it separately. It doesn't like to do it. If you guys have a pocket mirror or a camera, I want you to look inside your eyes. I want you to see more than just the outside exterior, more than your eyes or your eyelashes, your eyebrows. Don't look at your makeup or see, oh, I need to pluck those brows. I want you to just look at your eyes. I want you to look and see if you can see what's really inside there. I hope that you'll be more kind to yourself, that you will recognize the greatness that's inside of you, that you will know that you have a purpose, that you have something that only you can give to this world. You've been through good times and bad times. You've had courage and strength that you probably never knew you had, but you hung in there. You may be going through a really difficult time right now, and you have everything you need to get through that. It's right there inside of you. So as we go through the next couple of slides, I guess I can't turn that on and turn this on at the same time. I just want you to know that I recognize that you guys are incredible. And then that voice that restricts us and places fear in our minds and our hearts for us not to do the things that we should be doing and contributing to this world, it's time to stop it. And I've done some things since I've been able to go through these 5 steps. There's things that I never thought would ever be possible. If you would have told me 3 years, hey, in the next 3 years, you're going to write a book, you're going to launch the book, you're going to be a bestseller, you're going to be on stages with the likes of Elizabeth Smart, Richard Paul Evans, Dan Clark, I would have thought you were crazy. I would have laughed. I would have said, no way. But through this process, especially through gratitude, there were some promptings and inspiration and things that I felt like I needed to do. And because I had enough confidence in myself at that point, I decided I would do it. I made the choice of what I was going to do and my why, and I didn't care about the how. The how would come later. The how would be shown to me. And so in February, I put this together because I knew the power of a story. Once I started sharing this information with people, I knew that my story was making a difference for at least some people out there. And I thought, if my story is powerful, I can only imagine what 24 other women who've all had different journeys, some with divorce, some with death, some with sexual abuse, some that live in different countries. What could that do to help someone understand that they're doing okay in this world and that they have the strength and the power and the courage to move forward. And so this book was developed. I have this on Amazon. You can get that on Amazon, or if you're here in Vernal and you want a copy, just let me know. But I want you to know that this program was standalone. When I first started presenting this, I want you to know if you practice these 5 things, your life will change. I have changed in every facet of my life. My income again has tripled. My relationships, I have a stronger marriage than I ever thought possible. I've been able to go on trips that I never knew I could accomplish in 1 year. I went to Italy with my husband last September. I took the kids to London and Paris in March, and I went on a 14-day humanitarian trip in June. Never thought that was going to be what I could do. But what happened is when I found my confidence and I allowed myself to receive everything that was right there, everything changed. And so I had some people in my life start to say, Wendy, I need some accountability. I need some partners in this work, because yes, your presentation was good and I loved the information, but I need a little hand holding. And so I put together a 5-week online group coaching program. And I want you to know what's really exciting for me is because I am financially abundant enough that I can take care of all my needs at this point. I'm not swimming in money or anything like that, but I feel like our needs are being met, that now I get to serve others with my financial abundance. So when I do my coaching programs, I don't do it for my own gain. I do it because I find value. When I see people change their lives, it is what I receive back. That is greater than any financial compensation I could ever receive. And so as a result, I have a 5-week online group coaching program where you take a video once a week that teaches you a principle, each of those 5 principles, and then you start putting them into practice. You have assignments, you have accountability, and you're actually put together a audio vision board. So you're actually talk about your life as what you are wanting to create, and you put it in your own voice with music behind it. We do all sorts of other things to let go of guilt, to find our strengths, all of these incredible things. We have a private Facebook group, and we have weekly group sessions, and you can get belief breakthrough sessions as well. And so usually this is $195, but at the Joyful Living Conference, I offered it for $97. But guess what? All of that money goes to 100 Humanitarians. And if you guys will stay with me for about 3 more minutes, I'll just share with you what that is. So 100% of the money goes to the families in Kenya. And I want you to know this is what my life is now taking on. Financial abundance doesn't have to be a bad thing. I feel like it allows us to do more for this world, more good in this world. That's what I want financial abundance for. I don't really need a big house. I don't need fancy cars. I need to make a difference in this world. And so these are some beautiful people that I met in Kenya back in June. I got to take my 13-year-old with me. That was so incredible. But I want to tell you, these people have nothing, literally nothing, and yet they can connect on a level that I've never experienced before. They live their life heart-centered, and yet there are a couple of things that are needing to shift in their culture that we can help promote. And one of them, do you see that beautiful woman right there that's leaning in and touching my head? Her name is Christine Kamasi, and she actually has a chapter in my book. She was a prostitute on the slums of Nairobi for a long time, and started at the age of 12, and she shares her story about that. But she is now a leader in her community. And if you've ever done Days for Girls kits for girls in Africa, you know how powerful that is. They're feminine hygiene kits for girls, so that because they are not taught about cycles, they're not taught about any female cycles down there, and they don't have anything. Most of them cannot afford to have protection. So most of the girls drop out of school because they're embarrassed. The boys tease them. So if you've made them and sent them over, that's great. It's such a great thing. But what I love about 100 Humanitarians even more is that we actually allow 3 women that were prostitutes to actually create and make those kits. Instead of us making it, We give them the resources for them to make it so they don't have to be on the streets anymore. They make the kits, they go into middle schools, they teach them, they get buy-in from the girls, buy-in from the parents, and these girls are not they're not dropping out of school. She is the #1 Days for Girls representative, her and the 2 women that work for her. So that's what I love about 100 Humanitarians. It's not a handout, it's a hand up, and it helps them to learn self-sufficiency. The other story is that cute little in-day girl at the bottom with my friend Heidi. She actually was another practice that they have is that they have very large families, and so as a result they have very limited resources, and so it's to their advantage to have their girls, their daughters, be married off at 12, 13, 14 because they receive a dowry. And so as soon as they are of age, they have them married off oftentimes to 45, 50-year-old, 55-year-old men. And so in essence, sex slavery within their own family unit. And they also still perform female genital mutilation. So this girl ran away, went back home. It's actually illegal in Kenya, but because it's so remote, they don't enforce it down in that area. 100 Humanitarians heard about it, got involved. They gave a solution to the dad. They said, hey, if we can get Nday to school and find a sponsor for her to go to school, will mom take care of the baby? And that way she doesn't have to go back to that man that she doesn't want to live with anymore. And they were able to make that happen, and Nday is now 2 years away from graduating, and that's the kind of thing 100 Humanitarians does. So I love this organization. And in fact, one of the things, if you live in Utah, if you decide that you want to have some hand-holding and get into that group coaching, you get 2 tickets to Humanijam, which is September 29th at the Draper Amphitheater. I'm going to be speaking. Cactus Jack is coming. Lamarty is actually the Beyonce of Africa. He is, everybody has him as a ringtone, like he's a big deal, and he's coming here to perform. So that's September 29th in Draper. But I want you to know, regardless, reach out to me. I want to help you. However I can help you. If you're like, I want to be a part of the group coaching, but the resources aren't there, reach out to me. Okay, I want to help everybody that I possibly can. If you have any questions for me, this is, hi Rogan. If you need to get in touch with me, text, phone number, this is my email address. It should take you directly to my website when we end this, but if it doesn't, feel free to get on there. You can go to wendybunnell.com or criticaltoconfident.com. They both direct you to the same place. And you'll notice that on programs, you can just sign up right there. You will get a donation receipt from 100 Humanitarians. It's a 501c3, so you can write it off on your taxes. So with that being said, I'm going to hang out for a couple more minutes and answer any questions. And I just want you to know that I appreciate you spending your precious time with me today, and that I recognize that that was a sacrifice, and I honor you for honoring yourself. So you bet. I hope that it was well worth your time. Oh, I love my friends. All of you guys are amazing. Good, good, good. I have another one tomorrow night at 8 p.m. If you have friends that you're like, oh, I just wish that that so-and-so would hear this. Have them come tomorrow night at 8 p.m. If they can't make that, then I'm recording this event. So, okay. All right, guys, have an incredible day, and I hope that you'll reach out and we'll continue talking about this.